Hey everybody. Is it possible simply to rewrite history because one doesn't like what's happened? Or because the reason it's happened? Or does one simply add a different spin on things in order to look better? Well, this is what happened with the Quakers and the Puritans in the 17th and 18th centuries in New England. Let's take a look at Carla Gardina Pestana's article, The Quaker Executions as Myth and History, in the Journal of American History. Between 1659 and 1661, 4 Quaker missionaries to the Puritans in Massachusetts were executed. Marmaduke Stevenson, a Yorkshire farmer, in 1659, William Robinson, a young London resident, also in 1659, and Mary Dyer, a former Boston resident and supporter of Anne Hutchinson. She was sentenced at the same time, but she was not executed. Although she was made to walk to the gallows with the other 2, she had to stand and watch them hang. She had been granted a reprieve because her husband and son had interceded on her behalf. She left Boston and went back to Rhode Island. However, less than a year later, she felt called back to Boston to continue her mission work, and at that time the ruling of her death was reinstituted and she was hanged in 1660. William Ladera, a native of Barbados, was hanged in 1661. Now, it would seem that this information would be straightforward and there wouldn't be any problems with it. However, as time went by, both the Quakers and the Puritans started to change history by changing the accounts of how these events were perceived. The Quakers and the Puritans were both still English subjects and therefore still under the laws of the kingdom. However, the Puritans did not like the fact that the Quakers were coming into their territory and trying to persuade people to change their religious beliefs and convictions. The Puritans tried to banish the Quakers on fear of death, but this didn't stop the Quakers from returning. As a result, these 4 were executed before the practice was halted, because it didn't seem to be a true deterrent to the Quakers. Now, here's the question. Why would anyone try to change history? The Quakers claimed they were going to Boston as missionaries, but the Puritans said they were aggressively criticizing the Puritan faith and prophesying about what would happen to the Puritans if they did not repent. To the Quakers, they felt that the Puritans were being hypocritical because they claimed to have come to the New World for religious freedom, and yet they were not willing to grant that same right to others. Pestana relates a popular cultural truism of the time that, quote, dying well for one's faith proved its legitimacy. The roles of prophet and martyr were complementary. A good death lent support to the predictions and criticism that the martyr had made in life, end quote. Samuel Houghton of Nottinghamshire, England, told the leader of the colony, "You have stained your garments in the blood of the innocent suffering lambs of Christ and brought a blot upon your town. The Lord is making acquisition after innocent blood, and you cannot escape, for here in Boston it lives." In essence, you won't be able to escape your destiny at this point. Even as late as 1741, when a blight hit the New England area, the Quakers said it was because the Puritans had executed the missionaries without just cause, and God was repaying them for the harm done. The Quakers had once been a group of people who prophesied about the destruction of the world, but now they were advocating peace. In order to change their beliefs, they had to change their story, and that also meant that they had to change their history to match it. Now, who wouldn't want peace? And who would go against someone who wanted peace? Only someone who advocated war. Since the Puritans were against the Quakers, who wanted peace, the Puritans must want war. These kinds of analogies are what helped the Quakers sway people to be so understanding and sympathetic toward them and their cause. The Puritans eventually gave up trying to defend what had happened, either as a religious cause or a civil cause. The Quakers had used the principle of liberty of conscience about the Golden Rule against the Puritans. Would they really want others to do unto them what they had done to the Quakers? Definitely not. By 1774, John Adams, a native of Massachusetts, claimed that the Quaker executions were, quote, a blot on the history of Massachusetts, end quote. So, although the facts never changed, the way people looked at the facts and then interpreted them did change. maybe it is possible to go back and change history.